And we're back for week 2 of training since injuring my back in a takedown drill during MMA training. If you're new here, hi, I'm Kenna. If you're coming back, welcome back. I've missed you. I am training to become a professional MMA fighter, and this is my 3rd episode in this series of just kind of following along with the training that I've been doing. What I gather from the time that I've spent around people that have made 20+ year careers out of combat training is that burnout is a lot more common than you'd expect, and injuries are all but guaranteed. The determining factor that sets elite combat athletes at a level above the rest is their ability to repeatedly produce fantastic results, which includes honing in on their recovery skills. I have said it for years as a neuromuscular therapist. However hard you go in your training, you have to be just as intentional and dialed in on your recovery. If you train heavily and don't take the rest that you need, and you don't find ways to help your body recover from what you've put it through so it can have a faster turnover rate, you'll probably need to get paid a hell of a lot more per gig in order to make up for your need for such a massive recovery time. That ultimately means that you'll need to train a lot harder so that each individual gig that people watch are impressive enough to attract sponsors and fans willing to pay the money that will support your salary as an athlete. It's a cycle I'm trying to start, but as of this point, my martial arts career is completely self-funded, and I'm having to balance my home life, work life, and my training. I took a break from training over the summer so that I could get comfortable with my new home with my partner, and I also started at a new job that's in a completely different career field. And it took a lot of my time and energy to assimilate or stabilize. I came back to training thinking I was at the same level of athleticism that as when I moved. I think my body started developing some tensional holding patterns to overcompensate for my poor nutritional choices, my irregular sleeping patterns, and inconsistent fitness and recovery routines. When met with a bit of external force, I buckled under the pressure, and the breaking point ended up being my L2 down to my S1 vertebral discs. This Monday morning with Monica, I was feeling confident in some basic movements that didn't twist my spine too much. I felt a lot better about holding my core tight. She wanted me to focus on moving with every step, so strike with every step or step with every strike. And we didn't use a lot of pressure. I listened to my body and allowed the presence of pain to be my guide, so essentially just letting my body tell me which movements I needed to make accommodations for. I didn't notice this until now. She had me drilling the very thing that hurt me. She had me simulate going in for takedowns and clinching and looking for openings. We didn't completely finish out the movement into the full takedown because I don't think I'm quite ready for impact yet. What I got out of all of the work that we did on Monday was to practice being faster and almost opportunistic, which means I need to make it more natural to stay in my fight stance and be calm and ready to strike when I see an opening. Part of my DIY physical therapy later in the week is rehabbing with corrective exercise. I kept repeating in my mind, if I had to do this for the rest of forever, would what I'm doing be sustainable? And I'm not sure why, but thinking like this helped me to let go of some of the tensional holding patterns that I developed, and not just from my injury, but from years of repetitive strain and wear in completely inefficient and unhelpful movement patterns. The trick to finding a rhythm with this is to keep the transition phase seamless, almost like the goal of the movement is to sit down, lift, then hurl at the same speed, if not faster, to get it to roll back to right under my body before I drop down and grab it like a claw machine arm. Luckily, my workout didn't call for marathon level endurance, just 3 sets of 10 reps on each side in both orthodox and southpaw. I did 5 overhand to simulate straight punches like the jabs and crosses, and 5 underhanded to practice the form for uppercuts. I was really struggling with form on my uppercuts prior to my injury, and this helped me understand better foot placement for power and shock absorption and springiness in my joints. I transitioned to the bag the next day, so Friday, and practiced with how these moves I'd been learning prior to my injury felt to do after all the DIY PT. How would I hold my body if I had to do this movement forever? How would I hold my body if I were to throw one strike with every ounce of power in me and not damage myself? Did I feel confident scaling in between light touch and heavy power and still get the same spot on the bag every time? Sparring on Friday morning was fun and actually quite eye opening. I feel like my spatial awareness is improving, along with my support in my core. I also kept getting advice from people that were really trying to help, but it was kind of like drinking from a fire hydrant with all this information in the last couple of weeks, as I'm also trying to rehab my back and learn new skills and meet new people. It was just kind of a little upsetting, I guess, and a bit stressful. So with all that information, I feel like it's good information for future Kenna, but current Kenna is kind of just stuffing that in the junk drawer for later, and I'll sort through it later. Like I'm sure it'll be useful at some other point. Ultimately, I wanted to listen to Cunny as he was watching me spar. He was yelling things from the sidelines. He'll be one of the coaches, along with Monica, that backs me in the ring during my fights. My previous problems I was working on with my old coach Jason was listening to my coach because he knows a hell of a lot more than I do. But truthfully, I couldn't hear him from the sideline during sparring. I was fighting for my life. Hearing the blood pumping behind my ears and basically button smashing my character without any idea of how to logistically apply all the skills that I had just freshly developed. And it was only really a basic skill set. Now that I feel like I can calm myself down a lot more than I used to, and I can logically think about my next move, but also still allow my body to just feel some sort of momentum and flow, it's coming a lot easier. And I can listen to somebody on the sidelines yelling at me and then try to implement that and focus on it while also being so distracted and confused. It's a balance that I'm trying to work on. As we progress to higher levels of performance within our sport, we look to people that are achieving at the levels above us, especially those that have held their position of authority for long periods of time. Because, to quote my old coach Jason, you don't know shit. So when Connie tells me stop, it's probably because he's been clocked in the head a time or two and he thinks, knows it will certainly happen to me. Coach Connie really pushes me, but it's because I am resisting change fervently. After a long period of time of being told what to do by people with no follow through or consistency of their own, I've allowed myself to become comfortable as the ultimate arbiter of truth. And the truth is, I don't know shit. Not about the sports I want to compete in, not about fight politics and etiquette, not about cutting weight or weight classes, not about my potential competitors, and most certainly not about how gigs work and how to actually get paid for them. Since this was only week 2 of training after herniating my discs, we definitely took things easy. I don't quite feel back to the level of training intensity that I know I'm capable of, but every day I'm getting stronger and feeling a lot better. I took far less video footage of my DIY PT and my training and my recovery, mostly because there's this voice in the back of my head that says that nobody else is going to find any value in this. But I make these videos for the past Kenna. If there's anybody that's kind of in the same boat that I was in or is interested in just kind of following along with my journal to myself, essentially, I welcome you. I'm so glad to have you here. It's been my goal this year to get the ball rolling with baby steps. And I don't mean tiny uniform shuffles, I mean those first adventurous, bounding leaps of faith. I feel like I was able to take those giant leaps of progress last week, and it was kind of scary. I just pushed through 2 weeks of training with 4 herniated discs. I took that leap of faith hoping and just knowing that my DIY PT would pay off and that all of the training and sparring and just listening to my body would be enough to help me begin healing. And I really learned that I had to trust the process. I took a leap of faith that trusting the process of training and doing my therapy would pay off, and it did. And that felt pretty big and emotionally overwhelming to me. So I ended up crying in the parking lot after sparring. I was so angry and confused why I was feeling feelings I couldn't put a name to. I now know that as overwhelm of gratitude, of relief, of excitement. I'm not entirely sure, but I know my luteal phase was to blame. Maybe my overwhelm here this week is a bit of a death to my ego, a break in my rigid spine, in my concept of reality and how the world works. I want to be a professional fighter, and so I need to put myself in the mental and physical spaces of someone who does this for a 20 plus year career. Breaking and bruising and recovering is a normal part of this lifestyle, and we must learn to find a flow with it. The thrilling times you drive the hammer at the right opportune moments are contrasted with the times that you are the nail being driven into the mat. And I think it all makes for such a beautiful, healing learning environment. I am so grateful that you guys took the time to join me here and listen to me as I process the second week of training after my back injury. If you'd like to follow along on my quest to become a professional fighter, please hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon so that you can be notified whenever I make an update post. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching my progress. I will see you guys next week. Peace out.